Welcome to Stories with Steve, a podcast on the Central Buna Podcast Network. Every Thursday in 5 minutes or less, we'll lift you up with stories of how God works behind the scenes in our lives. Romans 8:28 tells us that God works all things together for the good of those who are called according to his purpose. Now with an encouraging story, here's Steve.
So what was your most meaningful Christmas? I mean, not really your best Christmas. A lot of times people think what was a good Christmas, the gifts I received, etc. But what was a meaningful Christmas? Well, you know, for me, the most meaningful Christmases I ever have probably were the time that I was serving others. I remember a few years ago, I always had this fantasy about being a Salvation Army bell ringer, right? I just loved the sound of the bell in the parking lot. I thought one year I'm going to do it. And so a few years ago, I got to do that at Park Del Mall in Beaumont. And it was kind of fun. It was a nice, cool day out there. I wore my Santa hat, red shirt, and ringing the bell and greeting people. And I guess the biggest blessing was the little children that came by and put the coins in the kettle there. So that was a lot of fun. And I think about the Christmas Eves I spent as a radio DJ in Houston. It's weird because you're alone, but you're got several thousand of your closest friends listening to you. And people would call up, and one Christmas Eve, it actually snowed, which is rare in Houston, but on Christmas Eve, and people were coming out of Christmas Eve services, and they were all excited. And also, people would call up, and, it's a very lonely time for people, and I got to pray with people. So for me, just serving others on Christmas means a lot. But, there's been some Christmases in my own life that have been hard, have been tough. I remember one particular Christmas when I wasn't working, and I was on the verge of, I couldn't pay my rent. I was on the verge of eviction and also losing my car. And I was just like, God, what am I going to do? I was kind of at the end of my rope, like Jimmy Stewart prayed in It's a Wonderful Life, George Bailey, Lord help me. And it's interesting because I found a business card from a guy that I knew I'd run into at church a few weeks, and I just had to do a double take to believe it was the same guy. When I knew him, he had struggled with substance abuse, and now the guy had his own commercial real estate business. And so I called this guy because I was trying to really see if I could get a loan, a bank, and if he could give me advice on that. And he said, well, probably no banks will help you. He said, but hey, come on in my office. And so I came in his office, and we sat down, and he said, hey, man, I just want to let you know that I remember the time you were really compassionate to me, and I want to help you out. Usually my company, we help out homeless people or charity, and I want to bless you this Christmas. And so he wrote me a very large check, which covered all my expenses. And I just said, man, why are you doing this? He said, man, I remember how you were compassionate to me, and I just want to bless you. And I tried to say, well, let me pay you back. He said, no, you don't have to pay me back. Just pray for me. And I never, ever want to forget that experience. And another time around Christmas, I was having some financial struggles, and I don't like to ask anybody for help. And even he, and I just, asked for prayer. And so I sent on Facebook Messenger, a friend of mine said, hey, just pray for me. I'm just kind of having some hard finances right now. And he opened up the Facebook Messenger, and his wife was right there. And about the time he opened up the Messenger, she said, have you heard from your friend Steve lately? And he read my message, and he said that was a sign. And so we met in a parking lot. He handed me a Christmas card, and it had $100 in it. And I just remember how humbling that was. And I don't want to ever forget those experiences. And I always want to be open and sensitive this time of the year that there's so many people in need, right, that we need to be conscious of this time of the year and be a blessing. So I just wonder if you've ever had those experiences. Have you ever had the opportunity to serve others on Christmas, or have you ever been on the receiving end? I'd love to know about it. Always remember, you've got a story to tell.